Chelsea threatens Sally, Nick won't use Summer. Today on Young and Restless, Chelsea confronts Sally, Noah and Kyle ask how Audra is okay with her job, and Victoria pitches her plan to Nick. Victor vanished. Abby was irate Mariah's out, and Nick alarmed Sharon after taking a pill. Noah runs into Audra at the GCAC. She says he's looking good. It's amazing he came out of that accident without a scratch. They agree they are more than their pretty faces and he joins her. She asks about his club and reminds him of how he always used to lose his umbrellas. He notices she's drinking champagne and wonders why she is celebrating alone. He remembers her only like vodka. She admits her luck has changed and she's landed her dream job. She's co-running a company with her best friend. When he suggests they toast to it, she admits she has bad luck with that. She only believes in the toast she makes to herself. After making one, she says she can only rely on herself. They chat about how her friend is the only person who actually trusts her and that means a lot. He's a lot less impressed when he learns that Sally is her best friend and her new company was stolen from his family. Her fresh start is built on an illegally seized company. How is she okay with that? Kyle wanders in and joins them at the bar. He and Noah chat and toast to Nick recovering. Kyle asks Audra if she's really okay with breaking the law to get what she wants. Audra says she broke no laws. She explains what Billy did and Sally rebranding the company. She won't shed a tear for Victor or Adam. Kyle is with Audra on that. Noah points out not only Victor has been attacked. The abbot thinks Adam is only getting a taste of what he's done to other people. Audra complains the only crime has been so long for it to take karma to kick in. Kyle jokes there might be a parade. Noah says they can hate his grandfather all they want, but that doesn't mean he deserves to lose all he's built. Kyle reminds him that Victor used to pit them against each other. Noah reminds him that this will impact on Summer and Harrison. He's sure they will cope and the Newmans will be dandy. Noah walks out. Audra laughs and tells Kyle it's weird. It's almost like we were on the same side, she says. He sort of smiles. At Crimson Lights, Sally places a call to have the company rebrand go ahead. Chelsea pops up. Spectra tries to run but Chelsea confronts her about her being screwed out of a job. She's appalled that she's okay with what Billy and Phyllis did. Sally says it's a done deal and she's obligated to honor the orders of those above her. She's sorry Chelsea is collateral damage but reminds her that Adam had no problem using Newman media as a weapon to crush his enemies. Chelsea assumes she's loving the payback. Sally insists that's not what this is about, but she doesn't have a lot of sympathy for the Newmans. None of this was her choice. Billy made a play and got what he wanted. Chelsea guesses she's not happy about what Billy did. She apologizes for helping Adam cheat on her and adds that she knows all about Billy's demons. She thinks he's gone too far this time. Chelsea worries that Billy's obsession with Chancellor Ha only put a huge target on his back and the Newmans will show no mercy. She asks if they can work together to save him from himself. Sally blurts out that they've broken up. It was her choice. They wanted different things and she couldn't handle his obsession with Chancellor. She made him choose between her and the company and he made his choice. Chelsea gets more animated and repeats that they need to get Billy to do the right thing to save him from himself. She starts lecturing her about ethics, which doesn't go over well with Sally. Spectra refuses to let her patronize her. She's sure Chelsea would be doing exactly the same thing in her position. Chelsea keeps saying she's concerned about Billy's welfare and Sally repeats she has a contract to honor. She accuses Chelsea of trying to con her into giving Newman media back. Chelsea warns terrible things might happen if she doesn't do the right thing. Sally's not surprised to see her acting just like a Newman. At the Newman ranch, Victoria and Nick wish they had word from their dad. He's sure he's in pursuit of Phyllis. Victoria was up all night coming up with a way to get Phyllis. She doesn't think he will like it. She wants to use Summer's unhappiness against Phyllis. You're gonna have a lot to work with, he says, groggily. She wonders what's up with him. He says his pain pills have him relaxed. Nick admits that it feels wrong to use Summer's anger. He's not compassionate to Phyllis but loves his daughter. They recall the things their mom has done. They still love her. He doesn't want to turn Summer against her mom. Victoria suggests they get Summer, Daniel, and their kids to threaten to cut Phyllis out of their lives to force her to back down. When Phyllis sees the light, she will give back the company and she can see her kids again. She'd like Nick to come along to try and talk his daughter into this plan. This all sounds rushed to him. He thinks they should wait to see if their dad's plan works. Victoria can't sit around. Everything is gone and they need to deal with it. She has no emails to return and she can't cope with that. Her brother is sure their father will work this out. Victoria worries that if Phyllis wins, it could kill their dad. She continues to insist turning the kids against their mom is the only way. He explains Phyllis only thinks she's getting justice. Nick doesn't want to mess up his daughter's life and repeats they should just leave their dad to sort this out. Victoria has faith in their father but can see the wind has been knocked out of him. He seems vulnerable and like he would make a mistake. She doesn't care if Nick don't like her plan. She's going ahead with it. Nick refuses to cross a line when it comes to his kids. His sister admits that she wanted to make her kids hate Billy too. She couldn't go ahead with that but did send them to boarding school. Nick wants to protect his kids, not get them tangled up. His sister repeats they need to try this. As he sits down again, she repeats that he doesn't seem like himself. He says he's healing and just tired. He assures his sister he won't give up fighting for their family, but he still hates her plan. He asks if he can think about it for the night. She agrees to that. In the ever-shifting geography of the young and the restless, where fidelity is currency and treason is virtually tradition, the fallout from Chancellor's shocking preemption gurgled through Genoa City with a force no bone could ignore. The morning light over the Newman ranch felt dimmer ever, as though indeed the sun understood that the balance of power had listed. Victor Newman was gone dissolved without a word, and in his absence, anxiety spread like campfire through his family and adversaries likewise. Abby was irate, Mariah had walked out to clear her head, and Nick Newman was nursing further than just emotional injuries after a recent dread that left Sharon scarified when she caught him reaching for a lozenge bottle. It was in this climate of apprehension and shifting alliances that Chelsea Lawson brazened Sally Spectra. Nick drew a firm line about using Summer as a pawn, and Victoria Newman unveiled a plan that hovered to fracture what little consanity the family had left. At the Genoa City Athletic Club, Noah Newman ran into Audra Charles at the bar, and their exchange carried a strange admixture of nostalgia and dubitation. Audra saluted him warmly, opining on how inconceivable it was that he'd walked down from his accident without a scrape. Noah brushed it off with characteristic modesty, agreeing that they were further than just their suitable faces. There was a flicker of genuine affection in the air, two people who had formerly known each other well enough to partake inside jokes about lost screens and failed attempts at majority. Audra, dressed perfectly and holding a glass of champagne, sounded different. When Noah asked what she was celebrating, she admitted her luck had changed. She had landed her dream job, co-running a company with her stylish friend. Noah's smile faltered when he learned that stylish friend was Sally Spectra and that the company in question was the one wrested from Newman control under largely controversial circumstances. Audra maintained that no laws had been broken. Billy Abbott had made his move, Sally had rebranded, and business was business. She refused to exfoliate a gash for Victor or Adam Newman, averring that Air was simply late in arriving. When Kyle Abbott joined them, the discussion stoned. Kyle heated Nick's recovery and also bluntly asked Audra if she was truly comfortable serving from what looked to numerous like commercial theft. Audra stood her ground, explaining that the accession had been fairly executed and that the outrage stemmed more from wounded pride than felonious wrongdoing. Noah combated that anyhow of how one felt about Victor, the impact extended beyond him. Summer and Harrison would feel the shockwaves. Kyle dismissed the idea that the Newmans would land on their bases. But Noah's fidelity to his family, blooded as they were, ran deep. He reminded them that Victor had erected an conglomerate through grim trouble and immolation. Abhorring him didn't mean he merited to lose everything. The discussion ended with Noah walking down, unintentional to celebrate what felt like a particular blow. Audra turned to Kyle with a bemused laugh, noting how strange it was that for formerly, she and Kyle sounded to be on the same side. He didn't deny it, though the look in his eyes suggested he was still calculating the angles. Across city at Crimson Lights, Sally Spectra was trying to concentrate on logistics. She placed a call attesting the rebrand would do as planned, her voice steady despite the turnabout of pressure in every word. The bell above the door chimed, and Chelsea Lawson appeared. Sally's instincts told her to leave, but Chelsea was briskly. The battle was immediate and electric. Chelsea indicted Sally of being complicit in destroying lives, of being impeccably comfortable serving from Billy Abbott and Phyllis Summers' ruthless maneuvering. Sally combated that the deal was done and that she was contractually obliged to recognize opinions made above her. She reminded Chelsea that Adam Newman had formally weaponized Newman Media without vacillation. Why was Sally suddenly the villain for navigating the fate? Chelsea's frustration wasn't just about business, it was particular. She admitted she stressed Billy's preoccupation with reclaiming power at Chancellor had painted a target on his reverse. The Newmans would avenge. They always did. She suggested that she and Sally, doubtful as it sounded, could work together to pull Billy back from the point. Sally stunned her by revealing she had formally ended the relationship. Billy had chosen the company over her. She had made him choose, and she lost. The admission hung in the air like shattered glass. Chelsea softened for a moment, apologizing for once backstabbings and admitting Billy's demons. But her concern snappily morphed into commodity sharper, an appeal wrapped in moral superiority. When Chelsea began speaking her about ethics, Sally bristled. She refused to be patronized, especially by someone who had her own complicated history with deception and manipulation. Sally indicted Chelsea of trying to guilt her into reversing a business deal under the guise of saving Billy. Chelsea advised that terrible effects could be if Sally didn't do the right thing. The recrimination was clear: the Newman machine would not sit idle. Sally's eyes hardened. She remarked that Chelsea was starting to sound exactly like a Newman, issuing veiled pitfalls dressed up as moral pleas. Meanwhile, at the Newman ranch, Victoria Newman paced with restless energy. She and Nick participated the same eating solicitude. No word from Victor. Victoria assumed he was hunting Phyllis, determined to reclaim what he saw as rightfully his. She had spent the night contriving her own strategy, one she suspected Nick wouldn't embrace. She proposed using Summer's wrathfulness toward her mother, however, Daniel, and indeed the grandchildren hovered to cut Phyllis out of their lives, if Summer. Nick quailed at the idea. He understood the fury directed at Phyllis, but weaponizing their children felt wrong. He loved Summer too important to drag her into a commercial war. Victoria argued that extraordinary circumstances demanded bold action. Everything they had erected was gone. She felt unmoored without emails to answer or heads to manage. The loss of control eroded at her identity. Nick, swimmy from pain drug, claimed they stay and trust Victor's plan. Victoria bothered their father sounded vulnerable for the first time in decades. However, it could devastate him if Phyllis prevailed. Nick drew a line. He'd not cross it when it came to his children. Victoria admitted she had formally considered turning her own kiddies against Billy but couldn't follow through. However, she had transferred them to boarding academy to shield them from the fallout. Nick's voice was steady as he reaffirmed his commitment to guarding his family, not using them as influence. Victoria, undeterred, declared she'd move forward with or without him. The pressure between them underlined a deeper fracture within the Newman dynasty. Without Victor's fostering presence, old injuries resurfaced. Nick's turndown wasn't just about Summer. It was about rejecting the ruthless tactics that had defined their parenting. Victoria's asseveration reflected her fear that vacillation equaled defeat. As Nick sat back down, fatigue apparent in his posture, Victoria studied him. He sounded off, softer, slower, maybe dulled by the drug he claimed was helping him heal. He assured her he'd continue fighting for their family, but he demanded time to suppose. Beyond the walls of the estate, Genoa City buzzed with enterprise. Abby's wrathfulness coddled as she questioned whether Victor's exposure gestured strategy or despair. Mariah's absence added another subcast of query. Sharon's concern for Nick strengthened, her instincts telling her commodity wasn't right. The preemption had burned further than a commercial battle. It had exposed fault lines in connections that had been strained for times. Chelsea's trouble dallied in Sally's mind long after they parted ways. She understood the threat of standing against the Newmans, but she also refused to be bullied into rendition. Her alliance with Audra offered both occasion and peril. Trust was fragile, and every palm felt temporary. Billy, driven by preoccupation, remained a wild card. And Victor, wherever he was, would not stay silent ever. As night fell over Genoa City, the stakes felt advanced than ever. Alliances were shifting. Old loves were unraveling. And in the quiet spaces between arguments and boardroom pushes, The characters of The Young and the Restless faced the same question: how far were they willing to go to win? For Nick, the answer was clear. His children were out limits. For Victoria, the line was hazy. For Chelsea, despair justified bold action. And for Sally, survival meant standing establishment, indeed when hovered. In a city where power is everything and family is both guard and armament, the coming days promised reckoning. Victor's return would change the equation, but until also, Genoa City remained suspended in a fragile, combustive silence, staying for the coming move in a game where no bone truly plays fair. As dawn crept over Genoa City the coming morning, the apprehension that had settled over the city refused to lift. At Newman Enterprises, the administrative bottom felt like a tomb, too quiet, too still, as if the structure itself was staying for its primogenitor to storm back by and reclaim his throne. But Victor remained missing, and that absence spoke louder than any protestation ever could. Victoria arrived beforehand, dressed sprucely, armor in the form of acclimatized silk and soared resoluteness. She stood in the office that had formerly been her father's command center and goggled out at the skyline. This view had always represented certainty. Now it felt like espoused time. She replayed her discussion with Nick, frustration washing beneath her polished surface. He was scrupling, and vacillation was a luxury she believed they couldn't go. At society, Abby vented to Devon, her voice tight with wrathfulness. She couldn't believe her father had dissolved without a word. She understood his instinct to strike back at Phyllis, but leaving the family in limbo felt reckless. Devon tried to base her, suggesting that Victor's silence likely meant he was orchestrating commodity enormous. Abby wasn't assured. She had grown up watching her father pay envelope wars, and she knew contributory damage was ineluctable. This time, the damage felt particular. Meanwhile, at Crimson Lights, Sally tried to bury herself in work. Every dispatch regarding the rebrand felt heavier than the last. She refused to let Chelsea's warning rattle her, but it echoed in her studies nevertheless. Terrible effects might be. That wasn't an idle comment, it was a pledge wrapped in concern. Sally reminded herself she had done nothing illegal. Billy had made the accession. She was executing her contractual scores. Still, she couldn't ignore the storm shadows gathering. Audra joined her, percolating confidence. She praised Sally for handling Chelsea's battle with countenance. To Audra, pitfalls were proof they were winning. She believed the key was to maintain instigation, launch the rebrand aggressively, flood-tide the request with messaging, and frame the preemption as invention rather than vengeance. Sally appreciated the strategic clarity, but a part of her wondered whether Audra undervalued the emotional dimension of this battle. The Newmans didn't just fight with attorneys and shareholders, they fought with heritage. Across city, Nick met Sharon at the Domain. She studied him precisely, noticing the slight detention in his responses, the heaviness in his eyes. He claimed the drug was just making him swimmy, nothing further. Sharon wasn't induced. She knew him too well. He admitted that Victoria wanted to involve Summer in a plan to press Phyllis. Sharon's expression hardened. She agreed with Nick. Children should no way be pawns. She had seen firsthand how maternal wars could scar a child. She prompted him to stay firm. Nick jounced, but he felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He loved his father, admired his strength, but he was tired of the cycle. Every war left the family fractured. He didn't want Summer inheriting that pattern. At the GCAC, Kyle set up himself allowing about Noah's words. He'd been quick to dismiss Enterprises about the broader impact of Chancellor's fall, but Noah's fidelity dallied in his mind. Kyle wasn't naive. He knew Victor had manipulated situations for decades. But there was commodity unsettling about watching a conglomerate deteriorate. He met with Jack latterly that day, and their discussion turned serious. Jack conceded that while he'd no sympathy for Victor's styles, destabilizing Newman Enterprises could shoot shockwaves through the entire business community. Kyle tasted his father's caution and realized the lines weren't as clean as he'd allowed. Noah, for his part, sought out Summer. He set up her at the house she participated with Harrison, gaping blankly at her phone. She admitted she felt torn. On one hand, she understood her murmurous drive to reclaim what she believed had been stolen from her. On the other, She abominated being caught in the middle of another power struggle. Noah gently advised her that Victoria might approach her with a plan. Summer's eyes widened. She suspected as important. She loved her forefather, but she refused to let anyone mandate how she should feel about her own mama. Back at Newman Enterprises, Victoria eventually brazened Summer. She presented her offer precisely, framing it as a necessary measure to cover the family's heritage. Summer heeded, her expression undecipherable. When Victoria finished, Summer asked a simple question.